In 1857, Cyrus West Field led the first expedition to lay a communications cable across the Atlantic Ocean, connecting Valentia Island off the southwest coast of Ireland to Heart's Content in Newfoundland. The original plan was to begin laying the cable by ship, the Niagara, off the coast of Ireland. Mid-ocean, the cable would be spliced to a cable in a second ship, the Agamemnon, and this second ship would carry on to Newfoundland. 10 days and 300 miles into the mission, disaster struck. An anxious engineer, fearing that the cable was paying out too fast, suddenly applied the brake. The brakes locked, and the cable snapped. The severed end of the cable, representing $500,000 worth of development and labor, plunged into the sea and disappeared. Despite this, Cyrus Field remained optimistic and raised more capital to launch a second attempt. The company ordered 700 miles of new wire to replace the lost cable. Prominent engineers and scientists examined every detail of the cable laying procedure. They made revisions to onboard equipment and devised a new payout method, which included anti-lock brakes. In the expedition of 1858, it was decided that the two ships would meet mid-ocean, splice the cable together, then one would head for Ireland and the other for Newfoundland. This would take half the time to lay the cable, and time was of the essence. However, before the two ships had even lost sight of each other, just 3 miles apart, the cable broke. Both ships returned, respliced, and once again parted ways. They did this multiple times, but unfortunately each time the cable broke. The ships headed back to Ireland to restock, in the hope that Field could once more convince investors to try again. His persistence paid off, and on July 29, 1858, the two ships were back in the Atlantic Ocean, splicing cable again. This time, they were to experience success and failure. After 2 weeks, with both ships having successfully laid over 1,000 miles of cable each, they finally reached the coasts of Newfoundland and Ireland, and for the first time in history, North America and Europe were connected. There was rejoicing in the streets of New York. Fireworks filled the air. The celebrations were comparable to the ending of a war. But what the public didn't know was that there were already problems with the new cable. And 1 day shy of a month, the line went dead due to extreme voltage. It would be 8 long years before America and Europe would speak to each other again. During this period, there was a lot of disappointment surrounding Cyrus Field, but he kept his dream of a transatlantic cable very much alive. He traveled between America and England 31 times in 4 years, and was eventually successful in raising capital for yet another attempt. This time, instead of fabricating the wire in pieces, the entire cable, all 2,500 miles of it, was manufactured in one piece. It took 8 months to make, and the finished cable weighed in at 9,000 tons. There was only one ship capable of carrying such an immense load, the Great Eastern. The world's largest steamship of its day was purchased, transformed into a cargo ship, and on July 23, 1865, with great fanfare on the cliff top at Foilhammerum Bay on Valentia Island, with Sir Robert Peel and others making speeches, it set sail westward with its heavy cargo, paying out the cable as it went. With only 600 miles of cable left to lay, disaster struck again. The cable fell into the machinery and snapped. Whooping like a snake, the cable plunged into the sea and disappeared. After the failure of the 1865 expedition, Field remained enthusiastic about the project. This enthusiasm rubbed off on others around him, and he was eventually able to drum up the capital to order another 2,500 miles of even better cable than previous expeditions. On June 13, 1866, the Great Eastern left Valentia Island again, paying out the new cable all the way to Heart's Content, Trinity Bay, Newfoundland, landing ashore on July 27th without incident. 12 long years in the making, 4 major attempts, and millions of dollars. Finally, Cyrus West Field had beaten the odds.